السلام علیکم پیارے بچوں، کیسے ہیں آپ؟ lovely to see you. Come one, come all, call them all and let's get started. اپنی کہانی شروع کرتے ہیں، ٹھیک ہے بیٹے؟ اور اب دیکھتے ہیں کہ کیا ہوا۔ اب جب اس شہزادی کی جو بڑی فراخ دل تھی اور اس کو اس کی کہانی سنائی گئی اس بادشاہ کو جو اس کی تلاش میں گیا تھا، اور پھر اس کی عورت جو بوڑھی عمر کی عورت تھی اس نے اس کو کہانی سنائی تھی۔ یہ میں آپ کو سنا رہی ہوں جناب قصہ چار درویشوں کا۔ درویش کہتے ہیں سینٹس کو، بزرگوں کو، ٹھیک ہے، جو بڑے پاک باز اور عبادت گار لوگ ہوتے ہیں، ان کو دنیا میں اتنی دلچسپی نہیں ہوتی۔ تو جی اب اس نے کہا، اس خاتون نے جو بڑی تیار ہوئی تھی اور شہزادی کے ساتھ رہتی تھی، یہ وہ شہزادی تھی جو ہر ایک کا بہت اہتمام سے خاطر کرتی تھی اپنے مہمانوں کی، اور تحفے تحائف دیتی تھی اور عزت کرتی تھی۔ تو پھر اس خاتون نے کہا ان سے کہ اگر تم ملک نیم روز جانے کا ارادہ رکھتے ہو تو جاؤ اور وہاں کی خبر لاؤ۔ میں نے جواب دیا، میں اسی وقت روانہ ہو جاتا ہوں اور خدا نے چاہا تو جلد واپس آؤں گا۔ بچوں آئی ایم سوری، میں تھوڑی سی لیٹ ہوئی ہوں، میرا نیٹ کنیکٹ نہیں کر رہا تھا، تو میں اس چیز کے لیے معذرت کرتی ہوں۔ میں نے رائٹ اوے کہانی شروع کر دی کہ آپ لوگ انتظار کر رہے ہوں گے، رائٹ؟ تو جی ملک نیم روز کا سفر، نیم کا مطلب ویسے تو ہوتا ہے آدھا، ٹھیک ہے جی؟ اچھا جی، میں بصرے سے روانہ ہوا اور طرح طرح کی تکلیفیں اٹھاتا ہوا کوئی 1 سال میں نیم روز پہنچا۔ آپ سوچیں نا اس زمانے میں کیسے لوگ سفر کرتے تھے، پاؤں پہ یا اونٹ پہ یا گھوڑے پہ، اور تو کوئی طریقہ نہیں تھا، تو ٹائم تو لگتا تھا۔ تو یہ بادشاہ اتنا ڈیڈیکیٹڈ تھا اور ڈٹرمن تھا، وہ 1 سال کے سفر کے ساتھ نیم روز پہنچ گیا اپنی ڈیسٹینیشن پہ۔ جتنے آدمی دیکھے سب سیاہ پوش نظر آئے اس کو، اس شہر میں پہنچ کے جتنے لوگ نظر آئے ان سب نے سیاہ پوش تھے، یعنی کہ انہوں نے کالے رنگ کے لباس پہنے ہوئے تھے۔ they were all dressed up in black۔ جیسا احوال بہروز کی زبانی سنا تھا اپنی آنکھوں سے دیکھا، تو جو ڈسکرپشن اس نے سنی تھی بہروز کی زبان، بہرور کی زبانی، ایگزیکٹلی اپنی آنکھوں سے ایگزیکٹلی وہی دیکھ رہا تھا، بالکل ہو بہو۔ پہلی تاریخ کو سب لوگ میدان میں جمع ہوئے، میں بھی ایک طرف جا کے کھڑا ہو گیا۔ دیکھتے ہی دیکھتے ایک نوجوان بیل پر سوار چیختا چلاتا جنگل سے نکلا۔ میں اسے دیکھتے ہی حیران کھڑا رہ گیا۔ اس نے اپنے پرانے دستور یعنی کہ ٹریڈیشن، اپنے جو ان کا طریقہ تھا کے مطابق غلام کو قتل کیا اور چلا گیا۔ لوگ پھر شہر کی طرف چلے اس میدان سے۔ میں اس تماشے میں اتنا محو ہو گیا، اتنا انگروس ہو گیا، مصروف ہو گیا کہ وہ نوجوان جو آیا تھا وہ میری آنکھوں سے اوجھل ہو گیا، یعنی کہ میں اس کو پھر دیکھ ہی نہیں سکا اور میں اس کے پیچھے نہ جا سکا۔ اس غلطی کی وجہ سے مجھے 1 مہینہ اور انتظار کرنا پڑا۔ بھلا کیوں؟ کیونکہ یہ سب لوگ نیم روز کے پہلی تاریخ کو اکٹھے ہوتے تھے اس میدان میں، اور پھر یہ جو ریچول تھا، یہ جو طریقہ کار تھا، ٹریڈیشن تھی، یہ دہرائی جاتی تھی۔ جیسے تیسے کر کے 1 مہینہ گزرا۔ آپ کو پتہ ہے جب آپ انتظار کر رہے ہوتے ہیں تو ٹائم لمبا ہو جاتا ہے۔ پہلی تاریخ کو پھر لوگ وہیں اکٹھے ہوئے۔ نوجوان اپنے وقت پر بیل پر بیٹھ کر آیا۔ جب وہ غلام کا سر کاٹ کر جنگل کی طرف جانے لگا تو میں بھی اس کے پیچھے دوڑا، لیکن شہر کے آدمی نے مجھے پکڑ لیا اور کہنے لگے، یہ تم کیا کر رہے ہو؟ کیوں جان بوجھ کر مرتے ہو؟ انہوں نے اس کو کہا اور اس کو روک لیا کہ تم مر جاؤ گے، ایسے ہی زندگی سے بیزار ہو تو مرنے کے اور بھی طریقے ہیں، جب جی چاہے مر جانا، مگر اس طریقے سے مت اپنی موت کو آواز دو۔ میں نے بہت کوشش کی لیکن لوگوں نے مجھے نہ چھوڑا، اور وہ نوجوان دیکھتے ہی دیکھتے پھر جنگل میں غائب ہو گیا۔ لوگ مجھے شہر کی طرف لے آئے اور مجھے پھر 1 مہینے تک انتظار کرنا پڑا۔ یہ دیکھیے وہ اس کو دیکھتا ہے، یہ ہے گھوڑ سوار، اور یہ ہیں ہمارے بادشاہ صاحب جو اس وقت تو ٹریولر بنے ہوئے ہیں۔ جب پہلی تاریخ آئی اور سب لوگ میدان میں جمع ہوئے تو میں سب سے الگ صبح جنگل میں کافی آگے جا کر ایک جگہ جا کر چھپ کر بیٹھ رہا۔ یہ جگہ اس نوجوان کے راستے میں تھی اور یہاں کوئی مجھے اس کے پیچھے جانے سے روک نہیں سکتا تھا، اور وہ نوجوان اپنے قاعدے، اپنی روٹین کے مطابق آیا، اور جب غلام کو قتل کر کے واپس ہوا تو میں اس کے پیچھے دوڑ پڑا۔ نوجوان نے اپنے پیچھے قدموں کی آہٹ پائی، اس کو میرے قدموں کی آواز آئی تو بیل کو موڑ کر شور کرتا ہوا میری طرف آیا اور تلوار نکال کر میرے پہ حملہ ہی کرنا چاہتا تھا کہ میں نے نہایت ادب سے سر جھکایا اور اسے سلام کیا اور اس کے سامنے دونوں ہاتھ باندھ کر کھڑا ہو گیا کہ جیسے اس کو بتا رہا ہو کہ میں صرف آپ کو ملنا چاہ رہا ہوں، میں آپ سے مقابلہ نہیں کرنا چاہ رہا، نہ آپ کو کوئی نقصان پہنچانا چاہ رہا۔ یہ ادب آداب دیکھ کر وہ رک گیا اور کہنے لگا کہ کیوں میرے ساتھ آتے ہو؟ خیریت اسی میں ہے کہ لوٹ جاؤ۔ یہ کہہ کر اس نے چاؤ خنجر میری طرف پھینکا اور بولا، اس وقت میرے پاس کچھ نقد موجود نہیں جو تمہیں دوں، یعنی کہ میرے پاس اتنے پیسے نہیں ہیں، اس خنجر کو بادشاہ کے پاس لے جاؤ، جو چاہو گے مل جائے گا۔ مجھ پر اس نوجوان کا ایسا خوف چھایا کہ نہ میں منہ سے کچھ بول سکا اور نہ قدم وہاں سے اٹھا سکا۔ کہتا ہے اس کا میرے پہ ایسا تھا جیسے میجک ہو گیا، میں بس اس کو اس طرح دیکھ رہا تھا اور اس کے بات سن رہا تھا، لیکن میں اسے کوئی جواب نہیں دے سکتا تھا اور میرے پہ خوف طاری ہو گیا اور میں منہ بھی نہ کھول سکا اور نہ ہی میں قدم نہ آگے نہ پیچھے کر سکا۔ وہ نوجوان ایک نعرہ مار کر ہو کر کے روانہ ہو گیا۔ تو میں نے سوچا یہ موقع بھی نکل گیا تو پھر ایک اور مہینہ انتظار کرنا پڑے گا۔ جب ایک مہم اپنی سر لی ہے تو پھر جینے مرنے کی فکر کیا معنی رکھتی ہے۔ یہ سوچ کر میں پھر نوجوان کے پیچھے دوڑا۔ اس نے جو دوبارہ اپنے پیچھے میرے قدموں کی آہٹ پائی تو مڑا، مجھے غصے سے ڈانٹا اور تلوار سونت لی اس طرح، رائٹ؟ اور کیوں ناحق اپنی گردن خون میری گردن پر چڑھاتا ہے؟ جا اپنی راہ لے یا تجھے اپنی جان بھاری ہو رہی ہے۔ اس نے کہا کیوں میرے پہ اپنا قتل ڈالتے ہو؟ کیوں مجھے مجبور کرتے ہو کہ میں تمہیں قتل کروں؟ اور اگر تمہیں اپنا زندگی اتنی بھاری لگی تو کہیں اور جاؤ۔ میں نے اس کی کوئی اور کسی بات کا کوئی جواب نہ دیا۔ وہ آگے بڑھا تو میں پھر اس کے پیچھے چل دیا۔ اب اس نے جان بوجھ کر کچھ نہیں کہا اور اپنے پیچھے آنے دیا۔ 2 کوس تک، یعنی کہ پھر وہ تیسری بار وہ خاموش ہو گیا، اس نے کچھ نہیں کہا۔ دو کوس تک اس جنگل میں چلنے کے بعد ایک مقام نظر آیا۔ دروازے پہ پہنچ کر نوجوان نے خوفناک ہو کر کے مارا، دروازہ اپنے آپ کھل گیا اور ایک غلام آیا، مجھے بھی اپنے ساتھ اندر لے گیا۔ میں نے اندر جا کر دیکھا کہ وہ نوجوان اکیلا ایک مسند پر یعنی کہ تخت پر بیٹھا ہے، کچھ اوزار سامنے پڑے ہیں یعنی کہ ویپنز، اور وہ زمرد کا ایک مرتبان بنا رہا ہے۔ زمرد، ایمرلڈ، زمرد ایک قیمتی پتھر ہے جیسے ہیرا ہوتا ہے، اور اس کا رنگ سبز ہوتا ہے، اور وہ اس سبز ایمرلڈ کا زمرد کا ایک جار یعنی کہ مرتبان بنا رہا ہے۔ میں نے جا کر سلام کیا جس طرح آپ اپنی کوکیز اپنے جار میں رکھتے ہیں، اور ادب سے اس کے سامنے بیٹھ گیا۔ جب وہ اٹھا تو جتنے غلام وہاں تھے سب اپنے کمروں میں چھپ گئے. میں بھی ان کے دیکھا دیکھی ایک کوٹری میں جا کر گھس گیا. ہاں، نوجوان نے اٹھ کر سب کمروں کی کنڈیاں چڑھا دیں اور پھر ایک موٹے سے ڈنڈے سے اپنی سواری کے بیل کو مارنے لگا. بڑی عجیب و غریب باتیں ہو رہی ہیں نا مزے کی کہانی. میں بھی بہت کیوریس ہو گئی تھی، یہ کیا ہو رہا ہے، یہ کیا ماجرا ہے. تو مسٹری اور ایڈونچر اس میں بھرے ہوئے ہیں، خوف بھی، بہادری بھی. میں ڈرتے ڈرتے یہ دیکھ کے اپنی کوٹری سے نکلا اور ایک درخت کی آڑ میں کھڑا ہو کر سارا ماجرا دیکھ رہا تھا کہ وہ نوجوان کیا کر رہا ہے، وہ ینگ آدمی کیا کر رہا ہے. بیل کو کچھ دیر تک مارنے کے بعد نوجوان نے ڈنڈا ہاتھ سے رکھ دیا، ایک کمرے کا تالا کھولا اور اس کے اندر گیا. پھر باہر آ کر بیل کی پیٹھ پر ہاتھ پھیرا اور اس کا منہ چوما. پھر کچھ گھاس دانہ اس کے آگے ڈال کر غلاموں کے کمرے کی طرف آیا اور ان کی کنڈیاں کھول دی اور پھر سب غلام باہر نکل آئے. اس کے بعد نوجوان نے نماز ادا کی. نماز کے بعد پکارا کہ وہ درویش کہاں ہے. میں دوڑ کر سامنے جا کھڑا ہوا. اس نے بیٹھنے کا اشارہ کیا. اس کے بعد تھوڑی دیر بعد کھانا آ گیا. اس نے خود بھی کھایا، مجھے بھی کھلایا. اس کے بعد اس کے سارے غلام رخصت ہو گئے، یعنی کہ وہ چلے گئے. جب ہم دونوں رہ گئے تب اس نے کہا، اے بھائی، تم پر ایسی کیا آفت آئی ہے کہ جو تم اپنی موت کو ڈھونڈتے پھرتے ہو؟ میں نے اپنی پوری کہانی، اپنا حال اور اپنی جستجو آخر تک تفصیل سے اسے سنا ڈالا اور کہا کہ اگر آپ میرے حال پر توجہ فرمائیں تو مجھے اپنے دل کی مراد مل سکتی ہے. اگر آپ مجھے اپنی سرگزشت سنائیں تو پہلے آپ کے واسطے کوشش کرنے کا وعدہ کرتا ہوں. اس نوجوان نے سن کر ایک آہ بھری، یعنی کہ بڑی اداسی سے اس نے خاموشی سے پہلے مجھے دیکھا اور پھر اس نے کہا، چلو میں تمہیں اپنی آپ بیتی، یعنی کہ اپنی آٹو بایوگرافی، اپنی کہانی سناتا ہوں. پھر وہ نیم روز کی شہزادے کی آپ بیتی شروع ہوتی ہے اور پھر ہم اگلے ہفتے اس کو کنٹینیو کریں گے، ٹھیک ہے؟ اور پھر دیکھیں گے کہ آگے کیا ہو رہا ہے. جی جناب. جی تو کیسی لگی آپ کو یہ کہانی؟ چھوٹی سی مزے کی تھی نا؟ جی مجھے بھی بہت اچھی لگی اور میرا خیال تھا بچے، آپ لوگوں کی کیوریوسٹی، آپ لوگوں کا کویسچنس کرنا آئے گا تو مجھے کویسچنس کریں. جی پھر جس کا بیسٹ کویسچن ہوگا اس کو میں پرائز دے سکوں گی، کچھ تو ہوگا. جی بالکل. تو کیا خیال ہے؟ اور آپ لوگ مجھے میسیجز میں نام تو بتائیں کن کہانیوں کے آپ نے سننے ہیں. جی تو بہت اچھا لگ رہا ہے آپ کے پیارے پیارے چہروں کو، انٹیلیجنٹ چہروں کو دیکھ کے. جی سب کو اکٹھا کیا کریں اور سب کو بتایا کریں، اور جب مرضی یہ کہانی سن لیجئے فیس بک پہ، اور میری جو پچھلے سال کی ہیں وہ تو یوٹیوب پہ بھی اویلیبل ہیں. سائٹ یہی ہوگی @stories with Uzma Channel. بہت بہت شکریہ. اب ہم شروع کرتے ہیں نیکسٹ کہانی. تھوڑا سا پانی پی لوں میں. جی اب آپ کو ڈو یو ریمبر؟ ہیلو ینگ لیڈیز اینڈ جینٹلمین، lovely to see you. جی do you remember which story I'm going to read? I did put up the name. Yes, come on, write me the name quickly. Yeah, The Smuggler's Caves. You know who smugglers are? So I thought it would be intriguing and mysterious and full of adventure. So the Smuggler's Caves, let's see what happens. Well, the two boys, their names are Bill and David. They were staying at their grandmother's down by the sea. They were very excited because their grandpa had been telling them for quite some time about the old smugglers' caves round by the cliff. Now, cliff is a small hill and very close to. So, what did the grandpa tell them? Oh, which piqued their curiosity, which interested them, and they said, he told them that there were caves in the neighborhoods near a cliff, and they were once owned by smugglers. Oh, grandpa, they asked their grandfather, could we explore them? Do you think? Should we find anything there, left by the old smugglers? Asked Bill. So how the imagination is running, right? Grandpa laughed. No, you will find nothing but sand and shells and seaweeds. Now, these are the things that are lying around all the time, where people don't live. There have been plenty of people in and out of those caves year after year. So many people have flocked and gone out of curiosity. And over the years, if there was anything to be found, it would have been found by now. Because so many people had explored these smugglers' caves, right? Still, Grandpa, it would be fun to explore them, David asked his grandpa. We could pretend we were smugglers. Come on, Bill, we'll go this morning. So finally the grandpa said, all right, but they'll have to watch out and be careful. Off they went running down the road to the big sandy beach and then round the sand where the big cliffs stuck out steep and rocky. And these were the caves. You can see the cliffs, not too high, but they're all stony and rocky, and that's where the caves were underneath. Oh, look, there's a whole lot of Boy Scouts on the beach, said Bill. Gosh, I wish I was old enough to be a scout. They have such fun. I bet they're going to camp somewhere here for a week or two and bathe and picnic and hike all day long. So what fun life is when you can bike and bathe and have picnic on the beach, on the sandy beaches. How many of you have been to a beach? Write to me, let me know. And if you've had an adventure, please share with me and I'll share it with everybody. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, share your experiences. They both thought when they saw the scouts having so much of fun, they were all boys also, do you think they'd let us be with them sometimes? But when the two small boys, what were their names? Yes, Bill and David, came near the company of scouts, they didn't get much of a welcome. Oh, that means they were not greeted warmly. You clear off your kids, said one of the big boys. This is our part of the beach. Don't you make yourselves nuisances here. Now they were scolded by the big boy from the scouts group, and he just raised his finger and said, clear off. And he told them to disappear because he said, this is our part of the beach and don't make nuisance, don't interrupt and don't hang around. The small boys, Bill and David, went off very disappointed. They could just have let us watch their games. Bill said all I wanted to do was just watch the games. We would not have been a nuisance. We would not have interfered or disturbed. We could even have run after the balls for them if they went too far. And in fact, we would be helping hands as they were playing with ball and different ball games. And as you know, the ball, if it is hit carelessly, it rolls over anywhere. So that we could have retrieved them, fetched them back, got them back for them and helped them. Oh, never mind. Let's go and look for the cave. So David was okay. He didn't take it seriously, you know. I'd rather explore them than watch boys who think we are too small to be anything but nuisances. He says, I'd rather be not with those kind of boys who think we are nuisance. Why not explore for ourselves? That's what we came here for. Bill said, here's a cave. Here's a cave. Said Bill, and he went up to where a dark hole yawned, like the mouth, right, at the foot of the cliff. There, if I'll show you closely, this is the hole in the cliff. Yeah, it's like yawning. It's like the mouth of the cliff or the cave, right? Opening. Like food enters our mouth, we enter through that hole into the cave. It's a big one, he said. Let's go in. They went into it. The floor was of soft sand, and as the grandpa had told them, seaweed hung down the sides of the walls. The sea went in and out at high tide and filled the little pools at the sides of the cave. Okay, so when the waves were high, they would fill little pools at the side of the cave. It's a nice cave, but not very exciting, said Bill. I don't feel as if smugglers ever came in here. Do you, David? Anyway, it doesn't lead anywhere. I mean, there are no inner caves or tunnels, something intriguing and secretive into the cliff. Let's find another cave, said David. So off they went to the next one. But that was very small, and they could hardly stand upright. They could not even stand straight. They had to stoop. Oh, it had quite a small entrance. And then boys climbed up the rocks to it and peered inside. Then they saw another cave and they peered inside, but they had to climb up the rocks. It's nice and dark. He looked in. Got your torch, David? We'll need it here. David switched on the torch. The boys made their way inside the caves. It was really more like a big tunnel. You know what tunnels are carved out of these places, hills, mountains, or even underwater, so that we can travel quickly and safely instead of climbing round or over the hills, which is sometimes not possible. And this tunnel-like cave, it led to an inner cave. David shone his torch round. Then he gave a sudden shout. See what they have discovered. Can you see? The cave leading into another. And you see boxes. Oh, Bill, what's that over there? Look. Bill looked over to the corner into which David's torch shone. Well hidden, they were what looked like sacks and boxes, just like I showed you. Gracious, had they suddenly hit on some old smuggler stores after all? Oh, make sure those Boy Scouts are not anywhere about, said David. We don't want them to interfere in this. This is our discovery. See? Bill went to the outer entrance of the tunnel-like cave. He peered out. He looked out. No, there were no boys about. But there was nobody. But wait a bit. Wasn't the sea a good bit nearer now? But he realized that the water, the tide was getting higher and the waves had come nearer. He called to David, I think the tide's coming in pretty fast. The water is coming in pretty fast. Will it reach these caves? Do you think? We don't want to be caught. Yes, I think it will reach them, and then we shall be stuck here for hours, said David. Blow, just as we have found treasure too. I don't like going off and leaving it here with all those scouts about. They're pretty certain to come nosing around these caves, and then they'll find too. They're pretty sure that he wanted to keep the scouts away from this exciting discovery. They found boxes and bags, and they didn't want to. This is what he was thinking. Well, we can't possibly take all these sacks and things down the beach with us, said Bill. Won't it be all right to leave them here, David? No, if we can find them, somebody else easily can, said David. I'm surprised. Nobody has spotted them before. I know what we'll do, Bill. What? We'll drag them to that place halfway up the cave wall, said David, pointing. Do you see there's a kind of big hole there? It may have been a proper hidey hole once for smuggled things. So they planned to move the whole stuff into a higher place, a hidden hole in the wall of the cave. We could cover it with some seaweed over the hole. It was difficult to drag everything up to the hole. See, they're making so much of an effort. Can you see the boys? Yeah, these are the boys, and they're dragging this stuff. Oh, the stuff. Very smart. And brave boys. The boys did not stop to open the sacks or boxes, for they were so afraid of being cut off by the tide. They didn't want to be cut off or stuck in the cave because of the water. Then they won't have been able to step out. They managed to drag all the boxes and the sacks into the hole at last. And then they hastily arranged big fronds, big leaves of seaweed over the treasure. Oh, they're very smart and strong. When they had finished, they were sure no one could possibly see it. They slid down to the cave floor. They slided down to the cave door. They went cautiously, carefully, quietly to the outer entrance, and then peered out to see where the water level was, where the tide was, or where if the scouts or anybody was around. They would just have time to run around the edge of the cliff before the sea was swirling all around it. Oopsie! There are the scouts. Look, in the next cave. But one, said Bill. I wonder what they want. They are yelling to each other rather crossly. I wonder what they're doing. Why are they yelling and shouting at each other? They sound angry. Somebody must have done something silly, I should think. Well, come on, let's go before they yell at us. He said, let's go, let's disappear before they see us and start yelling at us. The two little small boys, see, they are running away this way, and here are the scout boys, right? The two boys ran round the foot of the cliff, wading through a shallow stretch of water. They had to walk like ducks because there was some water already. They were only just in time, and because the tide, the waves, high waves would be in right up the cliff. They could see the way it was getting stormy and rough. The scouts will get caught if they don't look out, said Bill. Oh, they are big enough to swim if they get caught by the tide, said David, or they might even dare to climb up the cliffs. He said they're bigger, they're stronger, they're smarter, and they can swim or they can climb up. They can look after themselves. We don't have to worry about them. So David is the older one and wiser one. They went home to dinner. They told their grandpa about the exciting find, but he only laughed. Go on with you, he said, telling me you found smuggler's treasure in those caves. Okay, have fun. Why, I've been in and out of them thousands times when I was a boy. You don't suppose you scouts could find what I didn't, do you? Oh, the grandfather just laughed it off. Well, but Grandpa, said Bill, we really and truly did find treasure. At least we didn't open the sacks because we didn't have time. But what else could be in them but old forgotten treasure? Grandpa just laughed again, like any grown-up would, wouldn't it? Because he didn't believe. Grandpa just laughed again. It was very disappointing of him. They felt frustrated. The boys decided not to say any more because their grandpa was not taking them seriously. He was not paying any attention. It spoiled things if grown-ups laughed at them. So they felt a little uncomfortable and disappointed. After dinner, they slept out again, hoping that the tide would soon go down and they could once more go to the cave. And this time undo the treasure and see what they had got. It was so exciting. It was so difficult to hide that excitement. They waited for the supper and then they left. They waited around the foot of the cliffs and came to the stretch of rocks that led up to the cave. They went back because they thought the water waves would have receded. They were soon hauling, dragging the tree out of its hidey hole to the floor below again. It's a jolly good thing we put it up where we did, or it would have got soaking wet. He said we did a good thing because everything would have gotten wet. Oh, the sea came right into the cave. Oh my God. See what they are doing now. They're opening and you can see water. Little bit of water still there on the floor. They began to open the sacks excitedly. But what a surprise they got. There was no treasure. One sack was full of cups and plates and knives and forks. Another one had tins of food in it and big loaves of bread and about 3 dozen buns. One of the boxes had cricket stumps and balls in. What a very extraordinary thing. This is not smuggler's treasure, said Bill in dismay. Dismay or disappointment. But what is it? Why is it here? Who does it belong to? I say, do you think it belongs to the scouts? Said David in rather a small voice. It's rather a sort of thing any campers would bring, the sort of things they'd bring away to camp with them. I don't think we had better undo any more. The boys now stopped opening the boxes and they were looking at each other with dismay, with disappointment, and fright and fear. Had they meddled with the scouts' belongings? Now, what were they scared of? Had they messed up? Oh my God, opened up the belongings of the scouts. How could they have thought they had found smuggler's treasure when they knew the Swiss swept in and out of that cave? How silly of them. No wonder Grandpa had laughed. So now they realized they had been silly. Yes, they were feeling very disappointed and miserable and sad. We simply shall not dare to say a word about this to the scouts, said Bill, his voice trembling. They'd skin us alive. He said, we're not going to tell anything to the scouts on our way. No, if they come to know of it, they'd beat us up. They'd skin us alive. Let's go before they discover us here with their things, said David. So they crept out of the cave and made their way along the foot of the cliffs again. So they quietly left the cave and went around the foot of the cliffs. And they bumped straight into meeting of the scouts. There was a meeting going on of the scouts. I tell you, I did put the things into one of the caves. A red-faced scout was saying, I did. Even if the sea had gone in, surely it would not have swept everything out. So they are discussing those boxes. Wow, what a coincidence. Well, not a single thing is there, said the scout leader. And here we are come to camp with our food, crockery, knives, forks, everything gone. We were idiots to dump our things down like that. We should have set up camp and unpacked straight away instead of fooling about. So that's what they had done, and that's where those boxes had come from. You are with me. You're on top of things. You guessed it right. I suppose there's nothing for it but to go back home, said another scout, looking very blue and sad. Bill and David couldn't help hearing all this. They felt dreadful. It was their fault that the scouts had not been able to find their things. It would be their fault if they had to give up camping and go back home. Oh my God, they felt guilty just because they had hidden their stuff. That's why the scouts had not been able to find them. Now, if they had to go wrap up and go, it would be their fault. Bill pulled David. He was scared and wanted to get back home. But David was made of stronger stuff. And besides, he was older, like I told you. He suddenly walked straight up to the scout leader, his face red, scarlet, out of fear and awkwardness. "I'm awfully sorry, but we stuck our goods into a hidey hole halfway up a cave wall," he said. "A good thing we did too, or they would have been soaked by the sea. You'll find them in the cave quite safe." "Oh," David told him. "Oh, actually, I'm glad we hid your stuff in the higher hole in the cave, because otherwise everything would have been soaked wet." "You wretched little nuisances," cried a scout. "Do you want a good telling off?" Now, as expected, one of the scout boys was very angry. "No, he doesn't," said the leader. "It was a good thing he found our sacks and boxes and put them out of reach of the sea." He said actually he did a very brave and sensible thing. He put it out of the sea. And it can't have been an easy thing to walk up to us and confess it all. And it wouldn't have been easy. He's a very brave, courageous boy. And he's not running away with our stuff. He's in fact coming and confessing it. And he was not sure how we'll treat him. He's a good youngster and I won't have him yelled at. There was a bit of grumbling. But nobody had shouted at Bill and David. "You come along and show me which cave the things are in," said the leader too. "We seem to have forgotten even which cave we used." Bill and David took the scouts to the cave. They were pleased when they saw all the goods. "Now we can camp all right," said a tall scout. "Thank goodness these kids had the sense to drag everything out of reach of the water. Unintentionally, they had saved their stuff and saved the day for themselves." "We thought it was smuggler's treasure," explained Bill with a red face. He was so embarrassed to say that. But the scouts didn't laugh. The leader clapped him on the back. He got a pat. "You'll make a good scout one day," he said. "You ought to join the cubs, you and your brother. Would you like to watch us camping? You can come to breakfast tomorrow with us if you like." Well, what do you think of that? The two boys beamed, smiled all over their faces. They were more than happy. "Oh, thanks a lot," said David. "We promise not to make ourselves nuisances." Now, they didn't. They made themselves so useful, the scout leader said. He really didn't know what they would do without them. So they were very, very helpful. And the leader said he really didn't know what they would do without them. They were so useful, helpful. And one night he will let them sleep in a tent with some of the others. And now, as you can guess, what Bill and David did both. They are both good cubs, junior scouts. Are you a cub or a brownie? I'm sure you will be if you get the chance. What a fun story. They did find something and it got them a camping night and an experience of camping with scouts. Wow, isn't it? And that gave them an option of becoming cubs and enjoying themselves. Isn't it wonderful? What would you like to do? What are your hobbies? Why don't you share with them, with me? All right, it was lovely to see your sparkling eyes, eager faces. I hope you enjoyed this Sunday morning with me. I did. It's the best way to start a day, I think, listening and reading to a story. I loved it. I'm sure so did you. You can let me know. Bye-bye. Lovely to see you. Khuda Hafiz.